to Mss Francois Show. Of course, I am your host, Mss Francois, and of course, multi-talented and super sexy. We are in the 5th season of my show and the last season. So I'm going to have phenomenal guests all season long. And we're back in the studio. Oh my God, I'm looking amazing. So today's guest, she's amazing too. Not as this amazing, but she's all right. So we're going to meet today Miss Silvia. I'm going to let her pronounce her own last name, okay, guys? But she is an author, a psychotherapist, a mental health expert, and an author and founder of Critical Therapy. So I want to introduce you to Miss Silvia.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me on your show, and thanks for being in person. I think all of us crave being in person these days.
I see she's going to already be talking through my whole show. The show might be 2 hours long. Silvia, pronounce your last name for me, my dear.
Dutchevici. It's nothing like it's written, so don't worry about it. I just, Silvia D, you know.
So one of the first questions, I'm going to go straight into the questions. As soon as someone hear anything with therapy, they're thinking someone has definitely mental health or some kind of issues. But when you put psychotherapist, what's a psychotherapist? That sounds like Twilight Zone kind of stuff.
So a psychotherapist is someone who helps you with mental health issues. However, you know, when we think of mental health issues, I don't want people to think of it as an illness, but rather mental health wellness is on a continuum, especially now after, you know, most of us have survived COVID-19 and we have battled with anxiety, depression, and loneliness. I think the time is to really seek out help, to really sort of look at your life, analyze the impact that this pandemic has had on you. And as I know from being a therapist is that whenever we experience trauma or a stressor, because the truth is COVID-19 was a stressor for some, you know, the more affluent ones who could escape on an island. And it was traumatic for others, low-income folks who had to be in a room with 5 members of their family, right? So because of that, most of us, if we have unresolved trauma or unresolved issues, they will come to surface now.
Okay, so I asked her, what is psychotherapy? What is a psychotherapist? She gave me a whole story. So I think she got a little psycho, but it's okay. We'll roll with it, right? So she has a lot of knowledge, and we're going to be talking mostly about relationship as always. I'm hoping she might be able to find me a man by the end of the segment. She must know somebody. So Silvia, like one of the things I wanted to ask you, what exactly makes a good therapist? Because these days, everybody's a therapist, everybody's a coach, and everyone can help you with something. So I need to be able to get rid of some of the people in my life.
Yes, and everybody wants to give you advice, thinking that they know better than you, who has lived your life, what's best for you. So what makes a good therapist is, I think, someone who is willing to challenge you and also willing to explore your life, ask questions, right? Our job is to ask you, patients, questions, and your job is to reckon with those answers.
You see, that's always the thing. Like when people say they put you on the couch, when most of the times you all are listening to what we're saying. So at any time, are you all really providing us with information to help us? Or is it that you're talking to us to just get us to fix the issue or realize what the issue is?
We are trained to ask you questions that will guide you to finding the answers. Most of us have the answers, but the questions are painful. You have to look at your childhood, for example. You have to look at systemic problems and how they impact your mental health. And they're really difficult questions to ask oneself. And therapy is not just about getting to the answers, right? Like somehow if we know the right thing, we would do it. It's about working through. Now, we are human beings,
right,
and we heal through relationships. And that's because most of our, you know, issues are formed through relationships. Think about abandonment. Think about loneliness. It's all through this interpersonal dynamic that we get to feel a certain way. And it's also through an interpersonal relationship that you get to heal.
Lord, I'm already ready to end this segment and go buy the book, okay? Because this sounds so intense, right? You're ready, like, oh my God, she knows what she's talking about. So with that, you're the author of Critical Therapy. So Please, what is that? Because sometimes you could attach a real fancy, nice word to something and it means nothing. So explain to us what is critical therapy and how it is something that you came up with.
Right. So I'm going to do it in very simple terms because I think people who use fancy language do it so they could sort of self-credential, like, oh, I'm really smart. So I'm not going to do that to y'all. What I'll say is that critical therapy is different than other psychotherapies because we do three things that are different. The first one is we analyze power. We analyze power in the therapeutic relationship between us. We also analyze power and your place within society and how your access to power impacts how you show up, how my access to power as a therapist impacts how I show up in the room with you. We see the clinical relationship as a blueprint for all other relationships. What we mean is that if you're able to have a healthy relationship where you negotiate, where you're vulnerable, where you share space with your therapist, you're most likely able to have other healthy relationships. The other aspect of it is that we believe that the personal is political. And what we mean by that is not who you vote for, but rather how are issues such as access to health care, workers' rights, maternity leave, paternity leave, and so forth impact and affect your mental health. And the last one is we practice a politics of equity. And what we mean by that is that psychotherapy should be accessible to everyone, but it's not. Good psychotherapy is actually pretty expensive. The average cost per session in New York City is about $200. So most people are not going to be able to afford that.
Oh, Lord, I just watch reruns of Oprah. But
yeah, well, we want you to come to therapy as well. So because of what we've done is we actually ask everyone who comes to us to pay according to their income and resources.
Oh, okay.
Meaning a session could be as little as $25 and as much as $1,000. Now, that sounds radical or crazy, but it's not.
Just a little.
But it's not, because for the person who pays $25, their income and resources and the proportion of that therapy session is similar. It's the same as the person who pays $1,000 because they have more money. So in simple terms, we sort of ask rich people to subsidize poor people.
Okay, I like you because I'm poor. I'll be paying that $25.
Yeah, see, there you go.
Like, even all the stuff that you just said, what made you even develop something like that? Is something in your life, some kind of experience you had, or even you going to therapy yourself? So how did you come up with something like that?
Oh, I think we're always product of experiences. I think our lives impact who we are. There's so many layers to why I ended up doing critical therapy. Some I guess I know, some I might be unconscious. I don't think it's a surprise that I myself was in therapy. I do think it saved my life. I don't think I would be the person that I am today if I didn't go. I also think that I am a refugee. I came from Romania when I was 13 years old, and I escaped a brutal dictatorship. So I feel like that's why I could recognize how important the political is and affects our lives. And especially around power and relationships I've worked in the domestic violence field for a long time. Okay. I worked with, unfortunately, mostly women who were escaping abusive relationships and situations. And what I saw that was happening in therapy is, they would come to therapy and they would talk about their abuse, and then we didn't really have a good model of creating and sharing power with someone. Usually it's like you are the abuser or you're the abused. Right. Either you're the person who has power or you're the person who is powerless. And I really wanted to investigate that. And I really wanted to create different types of relationships and to really analyze how power can be a positive thing, how power can ignite change, and how power doesn't have to be destructive. Well, when we think of power, we think of power over. And that's because in our society, especially because of capitalism, patriarchy, and so forth, we always want to dominate, right? We want to dominate over a person. Think about our work arrangements. Our bosses tell us what to do, right? We don't think of power as responsibility. So if you think of having power as something that gives you a responsibility to another, you will show up differently in your job. You will show up differently at home. You will show up differently in all your relationships and in your community.
So how does this power translate to relationships? I'm just talking for myself. I really don't care about the audience or anything. So me wanting a husband and that family, how does that translate into that kind of relationship?
Well, the first thing is power is always present. How well are you at negotiating power with someone?
I think I should have most of the power.
Yeah, and see, that's the problem. The truth is, relationships, there's always going to be power dynamics.
Okay.
Sometimes you will have more power, and sometimes the person you choose to be with will have more power. But what I think gets tricky is that the way we date is not very conducive to collaboration. I mean, I've had countless people, sort of talk about how they went on a date and then they wonder, do I text back? Do I call?
Yes,
I don't want to call too soon.
It's stressful. No, it's
Right?
stressful.
Because we have these unspoken rules that are actually not helpful. Because think about friendships, right? If you met someone that you wanted to be friends with at an event, right? You wouldn't sit there at home once you get home and be like, do I text them? Do I call them today or maybe tomorrow? Oh no, maybe another day. You would just call and talk as a human being.
Right.
But when it comes to dating, we have these unrealistic rules, and those rules prevent us from actually being collaborative, from being vulnerable, from actually forming a good relationship.
But you don't want to be rejected. So I think it had to do with a lot of rejection, feeling hurt. So, and then you start to assume if you do this, what they would say and how would you take it? Like you have this whole story, and I'm a good storyteller.
Then that's the problem. So what I will say to you is the moment when you're open to being rejected and the moment when you're ready to have your heart broken is the moment when you could have a good relationship.
All right, this interview is over. She is the worst psychotherapist. She's trying to keep me single. Okay, so repeat that for everyone so they can hear that again.
That in order to have a good relationship, you have to be willing to have your heart broken at any moment. There is no safety net.
Okay, so just be open and vulnerable and just jump in and have it all work out.
It may not, but then if it doesn't, then would you want to be with someone who is rejecting you, who is not kind, who sees your vulnerability as a weakness?
Oh, I like you. Okay, I'm going to have to definitely save your number. Maybe I'll just come home with you right now.
Okay. And we can
I have
talk
like
more.
$25 in my bag, okay?
And I will also say this about relationships. What I often tell people is that the people we end up with or the people we end up dating reflect something about ourselves we're working through. So if you're not in a good place, you're not going to pick the healthy person. So you're looking for a husband, right?
Yes.
If you're in a good place, you're going to go to a party and there'll be, let's say, 10 men. You're going to notice all of them.
Yes. Wait, they will notice me. That's what you meant to say?
Well, no, you will notice them, right? Because you're the one who has to also make a choice.
Oh,
they don't
okay.
choose you, you also choose them.
Gotcha.
But if you're not in a good place, you're only going to see the 5 men who are dealing with their own issues and pick them.
Oh my God. Right now, I don't know if you're making me happy or you're just depressing me.
Maybe a little bit of both.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh,
Well, because I think when we think about dating and relationships, we always think about the other. What is this person going to do? Are they going to like me? Are they going to reject me? We don't think about, what do we want? What's my standard? Am I dating according to my standard? I mean, everyone has standards, and all of a sudden they get in there and they sort of forget, like, oh, hold on, this is not what I'm looking for.
wow. So most of the time when you're dating, are you saying I should go with how I feel? Like if I want to text, I should just text?
Yes, and be intentional. Also, if you want to text, stop yourself for a second and question, why am I texting this person? Is it because I genuinely want to reach out and talk to them? Or is it because I'm so anxious that I need to sort of vomit on them and be like, hi, how you doing? So I could feel better. The thing about relationships that we forget is that in order to have good ones, we have to be intentional. And we have to wonder, what am I sharing? Why am I sharing? Is this because I'm trying to communicate something to you? Is this because I'm trying to make a connection? Or is this because I'm trying to just feel better about myself?
Lord Jesus. All right, I'm sorry. I ain't texting you ever again, okay? I apologize. And this is Miss Silvia's fault. Like one of the things you had mentioned, you focus on race, class, and gender,
Yes.
and religion, and all these other things. How does that affect relationship? Are those like each have its own thing when it comes to relationship?
Yeah, I think what's so unfortunate about our current state of politics and society is we're not very good at having nuanced conversations anymore. We're not very good at dialoguing. We're not very good at conflict, right? It's sort of, we've lost our ability to sit with tensions and to debate. And whether that's about race, whether that's about class, whether that's about economics. And I think it's important to learn how to be with another and to be respectful in actually having those debates and having those conversations. And also, I will say this, there are some things, like, for example, if you're a racist or if you're sexist, that you should be called out on and challenged. But I think the way we do that is with humanity and with the hope that that person is willing to change or learn something. And if they're not, then probably we shouldn't date them, right? If you find someone who's like, no, I am right and you're wrong, I don't know if any of us would want that in a partner.
God, this should be an hour-long show.
It should be.
One of the things we were talking before we got on air was about career and biology.
Right, and women.
Yes.
Yes, particularly.
Yes. Tell us something about that, because I thought that was very interesting.
Well, what I think is sad is that we've been sold this myth that women and men, we could have it all. We could have a career, we could have a family, we could travel. And the truth is there's only so many hours in a day. We work way too much. I think one of my sort of disappointment with the feminist movement was that, we became the men we wanted to marry instead of changing society so that men would slow down, that men would be more caring, that men and women would have more time at home, would work less, would actually share resources, would form community. We didn't change the world changed us. And unfortunately, it's not a happy world, and it's not a world conducive to raising children, to having a healthy career where you're not burned out because you're working 40, 50, 60 hours a week in order to be successful.
So you're saying that we as women, we should choose, is either we're going to do the career thing or we're going to do the mom thing? Or
well, no, I think we want to try to have it both. No, we're going to not be perfect at either of those things, and that's okay. And continue as women to fight the fight, to really demand more, to demand more from our bosses, to demand more from our society, to say it is necessary that if we want to have healthy societies, healthy relationships, we need to work less, we need to spend more time with our loved ones, and we need to stop being so competitive.
God, that is my whole entire life. I am leaving now. I'm just gonna I give up.
But I do want to
say something to make me feel better.
I am going to say that. So you obviously are a strong, successful woman.
If you insist, obviously, yes, that's 100%.
And you will need to find a partner who enhances you, right? Who supports you so that you could do the show. You could do all the passionate things that you want to do. And maybe he could stay home if you want to have a child and take care of the child and support your career. I think there's, we go back to power and we go back to negotiation. You need to find that person that finds what is passionate in you and what you love to do and supports you, rather than challenge you or tear you down or say, oh, well, we don't have time for this. And I think that's also for, women know how to do this because we've done it for so long, especially in heterosexual relationships, right? It was a woman's job to support the husband, right? The reason why husbands were so successful in the 50s was because they had a woman at home doing all the work.
Right.
So if you want to be successful, you got to have someone at work doing some of the work. And that's not a negative thing. And I think especially as a career-oriented person, you have to find that person who supports you, who accompanies you in life, rather than try to stifle you or to sort of, ask that you're someone else.
You know what is weird with me? I think I'm at the point where I've done a lot of the career stuff and pursued a lot of my goals and stuff. And with the right person, because I'm from Trinidad and different cultures and how different things are seen. for that right person. I'm the kind of person I want to slow down. I want to have that husband. I want him to come home. I want to cook meals. I want to take care of the kids. And I don't even mind having like a part-time job, something I love doing and I choose. But people always see me, yes, I guess I give that energy off. I'm doing everything. That's fine, but I'm ready to pause. But I think because I've done so much, people think, okay, she's too much, she's high maintenance, she's this. And I'm like, no one takes the time to get to know me because they just make assumptions.
Right. And we always make us, this is why I don't, I don't particularly like online dating. Everyone's doing it now.
Right.
And the myth was that online dating is going to expand our horizons. We're going to pick people we would have never picked. And we're not going to look at, race. So we're not going to look at how they look, beauty, weight, and all that stuff. Well, that's not true. Actually, I believe that online dating plays into our stereotypes.
Really?
So we're going to pick people that look a certain way that we find attractive, right? Mm-hmm. And think about it. If you're at a party, you may not like that dude, but you see him at a bar, you start talking, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, he's actually kind of charismatic.
Sure.
Maybe I should go out with him. And maybe it could work out or not. How are you going to do that through a photo and a profile? You're not even going to read the profile.
I read the profile.
Yeah, everyone says that.
I do. But I realize a lot of people don't read the profile. But I do click. If I'm attracted to the person look-wise, then I read the profile. If you don't have much to say, then I do swipe.
And I'm glad that you read the profiles. And what I would tell everyone who is watching the show is when you read the profile, that is very revealing. Ask yourself, of all the things in the world, why did this person choose to tell me this about themselves? And if you like that answer, then probably you should, call them and swipe and get together.
And again, then you have the conversation. Well, first, most of the time you text a little, then you maybe have a conversation. And according to how that conversation go, hopefully you migrate to verbal conversation on the phone. And then you see, because I see online dating just like outside dating. It's just you have more prospects to choose from online compared to walking down the street or just going. I'm not a bar person, so. Right. Nothing wrong with bars. No. People get drunk and whatever.
Coffee shops. That's a good place, yeah.
Don't drink coffee either. But yes, that's why I wanted you to hook me up.
Okay.
But it's okay.
But, also, I think that, the other thing about online is that ideally it would work that way, but sometimes we just get so caught up in, the pictures. And we could have great chemistry with someone on the phone. And I know people who met in person, it was like, oh, God, no.
Oh, God, you're scaring me. I got to meet someone this weekend, girl.
That's why you got to talk to them and meet them soon.
Okay, with that said, since we're talking all this about relationship, let's talk about the romance and how romance play in relationship, negative or positive.
Well, I think the way that we've been taught to think about romance is negative. Think about all the romantic comedies, right? They're all about the struggle that the couple goes through.
So true.
And eventually, I love you. They have a fight or some conflict, and then, he or she's outside and sort of crying or banging on the door. I love you. Come back.
Yeah, you play the song, the music, all the love stories.
Yeah. Healthy relationships don't look like that.
It look like the Disney movies, right? With the curtain closed. No? Okay.
No. Healthy relationships are kind of boring, right? I mean, not boring in a bad way, but think about it. Healthy relationships are like this. Romance is very similar to abusive relationships that kind of go like this, which is the lows are really low, but man, the highs are really high. The problem with romance is that it buys into stereotypes. Mm-hmm. Who pays who for dinner, right? The man should pay if you're straight, and if you're gay, oh my God, we don't even know how to navigate that. It gets even more complicated. And it also plays into this sort of fantasy that, in order to have passion and desire, you need to have the gift. You need to have the bubble baths. You need to have all these.
Yes, that's what it shows in the movies.
Yeah, and that's why it doesn't work. And you know what? If you seek romance, you're gonna be great at dating. You're not gonna be great at relationships. The truth is, if you've been with someone for 10, 20, 15 years, there is excitement, but it's different. And I think what is so unfortunate is that most of us don't know about that excitement because we don't talk about it, which is you will have a healthy sexual life if you want to with your partner, but you got to work at it. After 20 years, no one's coming out of the shower and no one's like, whoa, I need to jump you. Ain't gonna happen. You need to build that up. You need to.
Have you been married for 20 years?
I've been in a long-term relationship, yes. So I also speak from experience. But I genuinely like my partner, and I feel that I enjoy my family so much more as years pass because I know them better. But it's not that romance, right? I'm not going to go home tonight and I'm not going to find flowers because I was on your show and I did great. But I am going to find someone who's going to, sort of ask me how the show was. Say, oh, can, we watch it together? So again, we have similar interests. It's like, I'm going to support you. And I think that that's what love and romance looks like.
Okay, fine.
Sorry to break that.
With that said, tell our viewers one main takeaway from everything you have studied, all your experience that could definitely help someone in a relationship.
Be more charitable towards your partner. I think to be able to have a good relationship, it's an ethical choice. Meaning, how do you show up? Are you going to jump to conclusions? Are you going to say the same thing you wanted to say, but because you're annoyed, yell at the person you're seeing? So it's show up very intentional and always expect the best. You might be surprised or disappointed, but if you expect the best, you might get the best.
My God, that could be like a slogan for something. That song, like, it's your second book, okay?
Okay.
I need 10% because I came up with that idea.
Of course, we could share it. Yeah.
But
we should do a show just on that.
No, you're amazing, just so you know. You kind of depressed me and my love life right now and my online dating, but it's okay.
Well, I'm going to say I gave you some hope to do it differently.
Let me tell you what she does, right? No matter what I say, she changes it around and make it all sound fancy and everything, so I feel so much better. But with that said, definitely tell our viewers where they can connect with you, where they can find you, social media, all that good stuff.
So the best way to find me is at criticaltherapy.org. I do have an Instagram page, and you could follow me, but it's Silvia Dutchevici, which you won't find me. So because of that, if you go to criticaltherapy.org and you click on our Instagram sort of, what is that, signal, whatever it is, I'm old, clearly don't have the lingo, then you will find me on Instagram. And please, message me, IM me or DM me, what is it? I always love to talk to people. And if you have any suggestions, if you buy the book Critical Therapy, Power and Liberation in Psychotherapy, and you have some ideas or comments, I am always welcome to have awesome conversations with people.
With that said, people, thank you so much, Silvia. This was intriguing. I learned a lot about myself sitting here in 30 minutes. 30 minutes, and I learned so much. Gonna definitely might be paying her that $25. But in any case, you guys, you all know how to reach Mss Francois, right? That's www.mssfrancois.com. And again, Mss Francois, always say exactly what you're thinking. Bye, guys. Say bye, Miss Silvia.
Bye. Thanks for having me on.